Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on subcultural theories of crime and deviance, looking at the work of Walter Miller. In contrast to both Chloe and Nolan, Walter Miller's research into subcultural norms and values suggested that the working class had a distinct set of norms and values that were independent of those of mainstream society. These norms and values, according to Miller, were more likely to result in criminal and deviant behaviours. Miller rejected the notion of blocked opportunities and instead suggested that deviance in the working class was a way of life and had been so for many centuries. He argued that the working class had a series of focal concerns that were typically associated with the behaviours of working class males. Miller identified 6 focal concerns of working class males: excitement, toughness, smartness, trouble, autonomy, and fate. It was the cultural attachment to the focal concerns that led the working class to deviate from the approved social norms and values of mainstream society, and we'll look at how each of these focal concerns caused criminality. Firstly, excitement. Miller suggested that working class males craved excitement outside of the workplace, and this could be seen in their leisure activities of drinking, recreational drug use, sexual encounters, and fighting. Miller suggested that these activities provided an outlet for frustrations, and this can be evidenced through examining the nightlife of working class towns, although it can be argued that these activities are not limited to the working class or males in the 21st century. These activities, however, could lead to antisocial behaviour, clashes with law enforcement, and drunken and disorderly behaviour. A second focal concern is that of toughness. For Miller, toughness was associated with the working class seeing masculine activities as having higher status. The display of such characteristics, such as arguments and physical confrontations, seemed to reinforce these ideas. This led to criminal activities such as assault and bodily harm. Toughness was also associated with the working class attitude of not backing down in an argument and reacting to any threats or attempts at intimidation through violence. Evidence for this can be found in the higher number of arrests and convictions for working class males for violent crimes, although some would argue that this is due to an excessive focus on working class rather than middle class crime. A third focal concern was smartness. Rather than being based upon intelligence or through academic qualifications, smartness refers to street smarts, the ability to outwit others, and this can be seen in illegal gambling and gaming. Crimes such as low-level fraud and confidence tricks also allow the working class to get one over on their peers. This can also be seen in verbal exchanges or banter as well. This can be evidenced through increased participation in sports gambling and gambling machines where working class males typically look to beat the system, as well as in casinos. However, it can be argued that the upper class are just as willing to gamble, but with higher stakes, with activities such as playing the stock market and investments being seen as desirable traits in some circles. A fourth focal concern was that of trouble. Miller argued that working class males are aware that through their lifestyle and social position that they would inevitably end up in trouble, but that their socialisation led to them being unlikely to back down from situations that could damage their opportunities. In a similar fashion to other focal concerns such as fatalism and linked into collectivist nature of working class males, there was a general acceptance that when trouble came about it was their role to support those that needed them. This acceptance that they would come into conflict with authorities can also link to subcultural behaviours in schools, particularly when examining the role of anti-school subcultures. Miller suggested that the working class were also autonomous, in part due to their anti-authority stance. Working class males were more likely to deal with issues themselves rather than alert the authorities. If they or their friends and family were victim to wrongdoing, they would be more likely to hand out retribution personally rather than contact the police. And this can be evidenced through lower levels of reporting incidents in working class areas than is estimated to occur, and a general reluctance to inform on those who have committed crime. Finally, fate. The fatalistic approach of some working class males leads them to believe that they have few choices in dealing with situations. The lack of agency in decision making is compounded by a pessimistic view of their future. This leads them to believe that they have nothing to lose, particularly given their belief that the future is already settled and little they do today will have an impact on where they are tomorrow. This too can be evidenced in education, and we can link this to the studies of Hyman and Sugarman, and even the attitudes displayed in more contemporary educational research by the likes of Louise Archer and Diane Ray, looking at fatalistic attitudes amongst working class pupils. While Miller's ideas have been criticised for victim blaming, they echo the approach of the New Right in the 1980s, with Charles Murray's views of the formation of an underclass of idle young men with deviant values. A further criticism of Miller is that he assumes that working class norms and values are deviant. Marxists would criticise this view, suggesting that these values are only subcultural because of the insistence of the ruling class enforcing their norms and values onto others. Finally, it can be argued that Miller's view is quite narrow. Its focus falls on working class males and is very deterministic in nature, assuming that all working class males adopt these normal patterns of behaviour. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on subcultural theories of crime and deviance, looking at the work of Walter Miller. Thanks for watching.